Hello, everybody, and welcome to Supporting the Digital Transformation, our webinar here all around the digital transformation workshop and building your digital strategy. My name is Erin Schreck, and I am with the William J. Clinton Leadership Institute. Again, if you've just entered from the lobby, apologies for the delay today in getting started. We're here now. We've got everything up and running. So again, thank you for bearing with us. I'm just going to run through a couple things to start the webinar before I pass over to our guest speaker today, Kay Kakoi. So I just want to let you all know if you have any questions at any point during the webinar, please feel free to pop them in the chat. We will have a dedicated question and answer session near the end, and I'll be monitoring the chat throughout the webinar. So if you, again, think of anything, need anything, please do put it in the chat, okay? So without further ado, we will get started since we are a little bit delayed with our start. Again, apologies for that, but thank you for staying with us. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of information about our webinar series, this is really a collaboration between ourselves, the Clinton J. Leadership Institute at Queen's, and then the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund. So really the whole purpose of this is to really support small and micro businesses to digitally transform their businesses by utilizing this amazing scheme. So we've had a few different webinars really focused on these different emerging technologies and the fund itself. So you can see a lot of these have already completed, but you are able to access these even if you did miss them. We have them on our YouTube chat. And again, I'll point out that link to you as we end the webinar today. But very good. So today, what are we going to be doing? We're going to talk to you a little bit about the Digital Transformation Fund itself and just eligibility criteria and the process and the timeline of that. And then also your digital transformation journey and the application that you will need to complete if you'd like to hopefully avail of the fund. Our guest speaker, Kay, who's brilliant, she's got lots of great tips and advice for you all around that application and how you can build your overall strategy, which will then feed into the plan and really hopefully make you receive that offer letter to go ahead and use the fund, okay? She's going to talk about project management, risk management, and planning. And then I will come back on and give you a little bit more information just about the further support that is available to you while you're either writing your letter of, your expression of interest or your application itself. So we've got lots of good tips and advice to share with you today. But again, if you do have any questions at all throughout, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat and we'll make sure that we cover them before we end the webinar today. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, my name is Erin Schreck and I work at the business school, but I'm here, with the William J. Clinton Leadership Institute. And our other guest speaker today, founder of Purposeful Group, is Kay Kakoi, and she's going to do an introduction around her own background a little bit later. So I'll save that for her to do. So my part really then today is I want to give you a kind of overview. Hopefully most of you or all of you attended some of our pre-briefing sessions around the Digital Transformation Fund. But if you haven't, don't worry. We still have some other briefings and calls, but we also have some webinars that are online as well that you could access if you missed anything. But just to kind of give you a brief overview, the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund is a demand-led grant scheme, and it's really aimed at those small and micro businesses in Northern Ireland to help stimulate their digital transformation. You might not have as much access to funding as a large multinational, perhaps. So the fund is there to really address any financial barriers that exist and really help small and micro businesses really take advantage of some of these emerging technologies that currently exist. And really, the key point to note is that the fund itself is all about transforming, your business digitally rather than just digitizing an existing business or business model or operations that you're doing. And there is a very clear difference between digitizing something and digitally transforming it. If you're seeking to make a room of files, into a computer-based sort of system, that would be digitizing, where we really want you to utilize the fund to really transform the business using one of the 6 emerging technologies that is covered with the fund. So just make sure you have that real difference in mind as we go forward. Now, the fund itself, it's anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000 pounds, the total project value of the fund itself. But again, it really, the point is to help you with sort of capital rather than revenue. So it's not going to give you necessarily assistance in revenue-based items, but really instead, let's look at those emerging technologies and how you can utilize those to transform the business. The actual pot itself, 7.5 million, it actually is coming from a variety of sources, but really all of the local councils in Northern Ireland are supporting this fund. And again, as long as you're based in Northern Ireland, and there's a couple different eligibility requirements that I'll cover for you, but all of the local authorities are involved. It's administered by the NMDDC and supported by InvestNI. But just so you know, you don't have to necessarily be affiliated with InvestNI. That was a question that came up at one of our pre-briefing sessions. So they're just supporting the fund. So as far as eligibility goes, as I mentioned, you need to be a small and micro business. And that really just means as long as you have between 1 and 49 employees, then you are covered. You do need to be based and operating in Northern Ireland, trading actively for 12 months at least, and VAT registered. Now, this fund itself is open to all sectors and industries, except for agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. If you find that you are one of those sectors, then we would point you to DARA, who might have specific funds and schemes that maybe are more appropriate for your sector at this point. But all other industries and sectors are very much invited to apply for the fund. A key part of applying for this fund, though, is having a digital transformation plan. And that's really why we're here today, is because we want to help you be as successful as possible with this plan, because your plan is going to be scored and assessed, and that determines whether you are invited to then participate with the fund itself. Your project should really be centered, as I mentioned, around one of the 6 emerging technologies that are covered in the webinar series that we've done throughout the last few weeks. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in case you aren't sure what those are exactly, or if you haven't attended a pre-briefing session. Now, the other part of it, as I mentioned, is that the eligible expenditure must be capital equipment, hardware devices, and or software or system development rather than revenue. And then all of the businesses that are applying do need to comply with the state aid subsidy control limits via de minimis. So again, if you have any questions about that, you can let us know. But those are the basic eligibility requirements for participating in the fund. The process itself, you would perhaps be attending one of our pre-briefing sessions. You might have already done so. But really, after you've gotten more information and decided that you'd like to maybe apply for the fund, you would create an expression of interest. That is based on your application of, based on your expression of interest, you would then be invited to apply for the fund itself. Once you create the application, which includes the digital transformation plan, then your application would be assessed. There's 3 different criteria on your plan that is scored. And then once you've maybe been successful, you'll be receiving a letter of offer via email. Then if you agree to that, then the next stage would be actually implementing your claims and your plans and going out and purchasing things. And then you would make your claim and receive back the money from the fund itself. So you would really be expected to match 30% of the fund, but 70% would be covered by the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund itself. So again, the pre-briefing sessions have kind of happened, but there are some recordings of those sessions. So again, I can point you to those at the end. If there's, for any reason, you'd like to watch it again or you missed it, I will point you to some of those resources at the end, okay? Now, let me just see. Sorry, my screen is a little frozen for just a minute. There we go. Okay, so I've given quite a brief overview there, but it was because we hoped or thought maybe you've already attended the pre-briefing sessions or you might already know about that, but you're here today to really think about your plan, your digital transformation plan. So I'd like to turn it over now to Kay Kakoi from Purposeful Group, who's here today to really help you maximize the potential for that plan and hopefully get you that letter of offer. So, Kay, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. So should I just let you know when I want to change the slides, Erin?
Yes, that'd be great. Thanks, Kay.
Okay, brilliant. If we can just go on to the intro slide, that'd be perfect. Thank you. So hello, everybody. My name's Kay Kakoi. I'm the founder of a company called Purposeful Group. My company is focused on supporting entrepreneurs and mentoring entrepreneurs, and I run a range of training and workshops that cover entrepreneurship, technology, digital skills, and employability. So I've written a number of books and also mentor entrepreneurs around the world. I also do a lot of judging at business and pitch competitions as well, and have won a number of awards for my work. So I do a lot of work with universities around the UK as well, and I'm an expert in residence focused on a tech specialism at a couple of UK universities. So I'm just going to take a sip of water. Okay, thank you, Erin. Next slide, please. So what I want to do, as Erin has quite rightly said, is to give you as strong as a background as we can, really, in terms of understanding what it's going to take to submit a really strong DTFF application. Okay, so we want to do what we can to help you understand what you need to do and help you increase your chances of success. So you're going to need a very clear and compelling strategy. You're going to need to lay out very plainly what your goals are and how you're going to achieve them through the technology. It's also going to be important to be very clear about what is the ROI for you. So what's the return on investment going to be? What are the benefits that you're expecting to see? What are the changes that you are hoping for within your business? And how is that going to help you to move forward? What you want to do is avoid sort of common mistakes and pitfalls, and I'll talk a lot about those throughout this session. But it's important to show alignment when you are submitting your application. So your wider strategy for your business should be aligned with the technologies that you're proposing to implement. So what we don't want to see, or DTF don't want to see, is a disconnect between the direction of your wider business and your overall strategy and then the technology. These things should be kind of interlinked and interwoven. So your strategy, your tech is there to help you fulfill your business strategy. The tech's not kind of just over in one corner doing its own thing. Everything that you're doing with the tech should be towards your higher business goals. So you've got to really lay that out, and that's sometimes where people make mistakes. They make assumptions or don't really lay things out very clearly. So you want to make a very clear and easy to follow, a logical argument, so that there are no kind of question marks about how everything fits together, what the benefits are going to be, etc. So I've got there's a slide a bit later on in the presentation that shows you where to go on the DTFF website, and I've also included a few links here to the applicant guidance. Okay, so this is where you can find a briefing document that is going to walk you through in a bit more detail what it is that the assessors, the people who are going to score your application, are looking for. And as I say, I'll cover some of that today with you as well. Next slide, please, Erin. Thank you. So the first thing I think is to just start off with some clear definitions. So when we talk about digital transformation, what we're talking about is making a business change, and it's a significant business change, where technology is the catalyst for that change. So that's the first point. And I thought I'd also just include a definition of innovation as well. So the one that I thought was quite appropriate here is a multi-stage process whereby an organisation transforms ideas into new or improved products, services or processes in order to advance, compete and differentiate themselves successfully. So bear that in those definitions in mind as well when you're thinking about what it is that you're planning to do, and also how you're going to communicate that in the best terms possible. So as Erin was saying, digital transformation is not the same as digitisation, and I've got a few examples here just to try to clarify that. So if we go to the next slide, please, Erin. Thank you. So on the left, we've got some examples of what digital transformation is, and on the right, we've got some examples of what digitisation is. So digital transformation is always strategic. We're talking about big picture, long-term, fundamental changes to your business. Okay, so it's going to be, as we're talking about with the innovation, driving new revenue streams, enabling you to have new products or services, revolutionising the way that you do things internally, potentially as well. So this is really rethinking what you do and taking it to the next level. That could include things like taking old software and systems, overhauling those and bringing in new technologies to replace those. As I say, it could also be looking at the way you do things internally so that you can become more efficient and do things such as save money, become more competitive, and those kind of things. Now, digitalisation is usually tactical. These are small wins. They're not big picture wins. These are small changes that you can make to make your business more digital. So we want to make sure that you don't submit applications for these things and focus more on those big picture transformation elements. So moving things from being on paper files and making those digital is not transformation. Just changing a website, I want a new website, for example, or a new e-commerce platform is not transformation. These are just changes that you can kind of make here and there that will improve your business, but they are not the big picture changes that we're talking about. Neither are things like changes to do with social media or your marketing or advertising and that kind of thing, okay? Or general sort of upgrading of IT equipment. If we could go to the next slide, please, then. Thank you. So I thought this slide might also help to clarify things as well. So this slide covers this kind of big picture, significant change that I was talking about, what we call strategic, digital transformation. So typically digital transformation may happen in one or four kind of main areas within your business. It could be changes to your business process. So looking at how you do things, the steps involved, the processes involved, and looking at how you can improve those on a significant level. And for each one of these, I've included quite a lot of different drivers. So do review those and think about which ones are going to apply to your business. So I've sort of tried to lay this out as clearly as possible so you can kind of cherry pick and think about what is most appropriate and relevant to what you are intending to do. You might also want to think about changes to your business model. So this is about how you deliver value to customers. How do they get whatever it is they get from you? What are the processes? How does that happen? How does that work? How do you get paid? How do you liaise with any suppliers or other people that are a key part of the process? How does that all hang together? You might be looking to transform your business model as well. And some of the drivers for that might be differentiating your company more powerfully, looking to chase or be competitors, reduce costs. On the other side, increasing your revenue. By improving your business model, you can also increase customer loyalty. So, you do things in a way that is more convenient for people or more cost effective for people, or they like the way that you serve or meet their needs better if you were to make these changes. That also might help you to attract new customers as well. Another type of major digital transformation could be to what we call your business domain. So you may want to expand that domain and look into serving new markets with a new product or services. Okay, so that in terms of sort of ROI and benefits, it could be business growth, increasing revenue, entering new markets. All these things are of course interlinked. Looking at higher profits. It also might be linked to intellectual property as well. So will making these changes allow you to create new intellectual property in your business? These days, intellectual property is hugely valuable. Digital intellectual property is often more valuable than physical these days as well. So building intellectual property in your business is definitely something which is or can be very, very valuable for a business to hold. Then finally, let's just talk about organisation and cultural elements as well. And I'll be talking about this throughout the session. You mustn't forget about the culture and people and all that sort of thing. That is still an integral part of the process. So as part of this, you might be looking to change internal approaches, ways of thinking, ways of working, ways of doing things, and of course, the capabilities that people have in your organisation. That could help you to become more innovative as a business. It may help you to be more adaptable, increase your internal productivity, increase your effectiveness. So, what you do and your efficiency, how you do it. So they're sort of two key elements to success, no matter what your business is, what you choose to do as a business, and then how you do those things, which is your execution. Next slide, please, Erin, thanks. So the requirements then. So when you submit your applications, they're going to need to be aligned to a digital transformation plan, and I will walk you through that very shortly. You're going to need to supply clear proof of a genuine digital transformation. So we've ticked the box with that. We've explained about digital transformation and how it's strategic versus digitization, which is tactical and usually about making smaller elements of a business and sort of making them digital. And we're looking at big picture things. So you want to make that distinction very clearly. Then they'll want to look at economic impact. So they want to know, how is what you're proposing to do going to improve your performance? How are you going to realise benefits? That ROI, again, which is going to keep coming up. How are you going to get that return on investment? If you're going to spend some money, how are you going to see the benefits of that investment? Then another element that you may want to emphasise is potential for new jobs to be created. Of course, it's better if those are going to be sustainable jobs, as in, they're going to be long-term jobs rather than, short-term jobs, just temporary positions. So again, think about that. Other things that are going to strengthen your application, where they are relevant, is can you demonstrate that you're going to be able to increase your turnover as a result of these changes? Are you going to be able to show that you are going to be more profitable? And can you show how your business is going to run more efficiently as a result? So just be very, very clear on these items and make sure that you are showing in your application how what you're intending to see and how you expect those changes to come about. What is, when you bring that technology in, how is it going to lead to these positive results? Next slide, please, Erin. Thank you. So just to recap then, so this transformation is going to happen in connection with one of these 6 emerging technologies. So it could be what we call some type of smart technology. So sometimes that's kind of related to what we call Internet of Things, which is connected devices. It could be sensors, lighting, thermostats, that kind of thing. It could be robotics related. It could be related to big data. So your business having the capacity to handle, process, manage, and make sense of large amounts of data. Again, we know that that is essentially very lucrative for businesses and can allow for lots of new insights that can be very powerful for a business or for their clients. Immersive technologies, so there we're talking about virtual reality and that sort of thing, augmented reality. Then we've got artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. Are you thinking about getting some form of digital transformation through that? And then finally, blockchain technologies. So they're the 6 main technologies, and it will be up to you to decide which of these you're going to be focusing on to achieve your transformation. Next slide, please, Erin. So another thing to point out to you, do include and be clear on any equipment that needs to be funded. And just another note to all of you as well, there is going to be an element in the application where you're going to need to submit 2 quotations from relevant suppliers. So that's going to mean that as we're, you're creating your plan and starting to think about what it is you're going to need, that you're going to need to start to reach out to potential suppliers, get them some quotes from them, get them to break down what they intend to do and how that's going to work. And then you're going to submit at least 2 of those and talk about, your preferences and why you favour, one supplier over another. If you've received any state aid or subsidies, then just a note to all of you that you'll need to declare that. And you'll also need to provide evidence of your ability to match the fund. So whatever you get, you're going to need to be able to contribute 30% of that. So there will be an element of just confirming that you're going to be able to put up your side of the money, so to speak. Then finally, just proving that you know your VAT status basically, and also proving your trading duration. You might be able to do that through your HMRC and kind of showing when your business was established. Could we go to the next slide, please, Erin? Thank you. So this is roughly what your plan is going to look like. So there are 3 main criteria here, and we've got the first 2 that have a weighting of 40% each, and then the final one that has a weighting of 20%. So the first criteria is, how is the money that's going to be invested or given to you, how is that going to contribute to the digital transformation? So you've got 800 words there to start to explain what you're intending to do. The second criteria is for you to plainly demonstrate that this money is going to be put to very good use. What are the economic outputs, the benefits? We've talked about sort of ROI. We've talked about potentially new sustainable employment, increasing efficiency, those kind of things, increasing profitability. So pick your key drivers for doing this, going through this digital transformation, and clearly outline them. For the third criteria, you want to summarise the improvements that you're expecting to see. Okay, so there are the three main criteria. If we can go to the next slide, please, Erin. So your digital transformation plan. So we've just captured here kind of a blank template from the plan, just so that you can see what it is. Okay, so you're going to submit this digital transformation plan. And the first question is just a straightforward one, which is which of the 6 technologies are you going to be utilising to take the digital transformation forward? Next slide, please, Erin. So the second part of it is looking at how the proposed investment is going to contribute to the transformation within your business. So you've got 4,000 characters, which is 600 to 800 words, basically. So you're going to talk about why the product's been taken up, what you hope to achieve, and also kind of look into the future a little bit as well, to kind of show that you are applying that long-term strategic thinking to this, and thinking about how it's going to take your business forward. Then we're going to look at the economic outputs and benefits. So increasing turnover, new products or services, whichever one of those is your aim, if any, and development of new roles. Then we've got summarising the business performance improvements, so productivity, scalability, etc. And there's also a question about details of any positive environmental impacts as well. We know now that sustainability is really important. Businesses, consumers, suppliers, they're all now looking at businesses and looking at, not just, what products do you have, what services do you have, but how are you sustainable? How are you thinking about the environment? How are you showing, social responsibility? So there's an element for you to think about there, about how you can actually demonstrate a positive environmental impact. Next slide, please, Erin. So now I've kind of talked to you about the high-level elements that you need to think about for your digital transformation plan in your application. I want to talk in a bit more detail about the overall plan. So yes, you've got a number of words, approximately 800 words to answer on those key sections. But if you really want this to work, I really strongly recommend that you start working on an internal plan that goes kind of wider and deeper than that, and that you then look at that, reflect on it, pick out the strongest elements, make any tweaks and changes, and then you take those elements and you add those to your application. That's going to ensure that you haven't overlooked anything. So if we can just go to the next slide, please, Erin. So it goes without saying that digital transformation, technology projects can be challenging. Adding to that you may not have a lot of budget, you may not have dedicated staff or professional functions in terms, inside your business, where you've got project managers and, strategic planning going on. So I want to try to arm you a bit today with some things to think about that will help you with those things. So I don't know if you've been watching the sorry state of things over across the water with the politicians. They keep coming up with these manifestos, and then the Institute of Fiscal Responsibility will say it's not been costed properly and they don't know where they're getting their numbers from and all this sort of thing. So avoid that. There are lots of parallels there where people have got these big ideas and they haven't got the detail to back it up. Or when you start prodding into the detail, everything falls apart, okay? So what I want to go through today is going to help you to avoid that, all right? That kind of, Swiss cheese thinking, loads of holes in it everywhere when you look more closely. So I want you to basically avoid missing key elements in your strategy, your overall planning and thinking about what you're intending to do, and then your thinking in terms of your execution, how you're actually going to make this happen. So that will, if you kind of avoid those things, that's going to make for a stronger application, and also, of course, avoid you wasting time and money as you hopefully go into the actual process of bringing your digital transformation to life. So at this point, I would say if you haven't got a pen and paper or something to make notes with, please grab one. This will be is being recorded. It will be on YouTube. But what I'd like you to be doing as I'm going through these things, thinking, oh, I haven't thought about that, or yeah, that's something I've not really delved into yet, so that you can basically flush out any things that you were sort of missing in terms of your thinking, and start kind of including those items from here on out. If you could go to the next slide, please, Erin, thanks. So I'm going to briefly take you through now a digital transformation strategy, almost as if you were to start to create a document for yourself and create a strategy plan for yourself, section by section. So I'm going to kind of give you the high level kind of overview of the elements that you could consider having in there, and then to talk you through some of the things that you should be thinking about. As I say, the idea of this is that if you do this, you're going to have a much more solid foundation, and the application that you submit as a result is going to be a much better one. So first of all, you have your executive summary, which you're going to write last once you've completed the rest of the document. Then you're going to open with an overview, which is going to talk about the purpose of your strategy. So your vision, your objectives. Why do you need to make these changes in the first place? Okay, and those expected benefits. Depending on who the readers are and the size of your business as well, you should be sharing this with people who can give you some kind of intelligent inputs, okay? So you might want to have a brief description of what digital transformation actually is for, anyone who you might consult with and might read this, and just to kind of briefly explain the importance of it. Then you're going to think about how this digital transformation fits in with those strategic objectives and the direction of your business. Because as we've said already, if you can't demonstrate that these things are interlinked and part of each other, it's going to basically impair and impede your application. After that, you want to think about where you are right now. So sometimes this is called an as-is review or baseline assessment as well. So some of the things you should be thinking about, and again, these are going to give strength to your whole application. What are global trends? What's going on out in the world at the moment? So what's the context behind the digital transformation you're planning? So what's going on in your industry, market sector, however you think of it? What's going on nationally, internationally? What are current and changing consumer trends? So all of these things can be important drivers that mean that a business needs to go for a digital transformation. Then you're going to look at your company's current situation, how you work internally, your processes, workflows, and look at risks and challenges. Leading on to that, it would or can be useful to do a SWOT. So you're looking at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and thinking about your competitors and comparing and contrasting what they're doing with what you're doing. If we could go to the next slide, please, Erin. Thank you. So just to finish off with current situation then. So you're going to think here and outline what organisational changes are needed as well. This is super important and it's often overlooked. If you make technology changes, you have got to bring hearts and minds along with it. You can't change everything, and then you've got people who maybe are still emotionally bonded to the way things used to be done, or they don't like the technology, or they've got some other concerns or fears. Okay, so you have got to look honestly at your team, your company. Are they in the right headspace to kind of join you on that journey of that digital transformation? You can't have one and not in align with the other, otherwise the project is not going to achieve its goals. So what new processes and activities are going to be needed? Are people in the right place to realise those? If not, you're going to have to think about, as part of the transformation, about the people side of things as well. And also what the consequences are if you don't act. So if you don't do anything, what's the outcome going to be of that? Then the next thing then to talk about is the proposed changes now then. So describe what you want to implement and think about your areas of focus and your priorities. I've never worked on a project, even a multi-million-pound digital project, where there has been enough money for everything. So even as a small business in particular, you're going to have to ruthlessly prioritise what it is that you want to do and make sure that you are picking the things that are really going to make a big difference and invest in the right things. So how will each part of your business be affected when you have this transformation? Consider every element, every facet of every department, all the different roles that are involved. You're going to have to think about how this is all going to work together, because if you've got the new technology and you haven't got the processes, the people in the right headspace to make it work, then it can't succeed. So it can be useful, therefore, to create a bit of a roadmap where you think about what it is you want to do and kind of order that into potential sort of phases and stages that you can pick off. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. If you could move on to the next slide, please, Erin. Thank you. So, required items, preparatory work. What are you going to have to buy, and what ducks are you going to have in a row in order for this all to work? Often there are things that need to be bought, changes that need to be made in order for the technology to be able to be embedded into your business. It could be looking at how you store data, how you cleanse data. You might need to clean data up to put it into a new system, for example. We've already talked about getting people prepared as well. So have a think about those things. Other elements are legal elements, okay? So if you're digitally transforming, does that have any legal applications for you? Is there any new laws or regulations that you need to be aware of? GDPR for handling data. So do think about those things as well. Then moving on to the technology. So you're going to want to think about the tech that you're intending to use. Don't forget any elements of that. You might have core software that you need, but there might be sorts of supporting software, So when I say supporting software, that might be software that helps you to monitor whatever it is you've implemented. So has it broken down? Is it throwing errors? Is it making mistakes? How are you going to track that? And often there is software that you can buy to make sure that your core software is healthy and running as it should be, and it will alert you if it spots any sort of bizarre patterns or irregularities. So you're going to sort of need to think about all that sort of thing. Hardware, software, systems, machinery, equipment, it will be different for all of you, but think about that as much as you can. And Linking on to that are going to be, well, what's your actual approach to this? Are you going to go out and buy software, or are you going to build it? That is a huge decision as well. That could also affect whether you need to hire staff, how many staff you need, and what type of skills they have. And then you're also going to need to think about the types of suppliers that you might need to bring on board, agencies. Are there other types of service providers? Starting to shop around, so to speak, and look at what's out there and the different ways that different companies can help, and looking at the pros and cons, and asking questions. So considering the task and timescales involved with that is important. So as part of that, you're going to, inquire about how long any suppliers feel it's going to take to get this work done, and start to build up in your mind an idea of how of timescales, basically, so you can start to map this out. If you could go to the next slide, please, Erin. Stakeholder review. Again, something that people often forget. So when we talk about stakeholders, this is all of the interactions that your business has with different groups. You've got your customers, you've got your suppliers, you've got your internal staff, you've got any industry or business partners that you have. Do you have shareholders or investors that need to be made aware of what you're planning to do? What about the local community? Not going to necessarily be relevant for all of you, but local community are stakeholders as well. Is what you're doing going to affect people in any way? So really sort of brainstorm that. Another type of stakeholder is the media, or having some sort of PR to help you as well, because you can potentially spin some very good media and PR stories out of this. Don't forget them as a stakeholder. Okay, so how is your digital transformation going to affect each of those groups? You can sort of see a bit of a table popping up here, where you've got all the stakeholders maybe running across one side of the page, and then a bit of a note about how the digital transformation is going to affect each of those parties, also against those. So as I've mentioned, mindset, culture, behaviours, what changes are going to need to be made, okay? So now we've got our stakeholder review and we know who we need to keep in mind. You're going to need to think about a communications plan. So some people, some groups, you're going to need to communicate with more frequently and some less, but nevertheless, there will be a time or times when you're going to need to communicate with each of those stakeholder groups and keep them in the loop. If you don't talk to your staff enough about what is going on, it is going to cause confusion or maybe unnecessary fears and concerns. So you may want to communicate with those groups more than others, especially those who are going to be most affected by this change. You need to have a comms plan, because you need to sell this, right? This is a good thing. How is it going to make their life better? This is not something that's going to, make them lose their job, or it's going to be negative or painful for them. Think about how you're going to pitch this to get people excited and looking forward to this and on board and supporting you, not dragging their heels and making everything more difficult, because people can make this a hell of a lot more difficult than it needs to be if they oppose. Okay. So seek feedback from people as well. Have you forgotten anything? Don't think, you've thought of everything. The more people can input, what about this? What about that? Have you considered this? What about this supplier? You want all that feedback, because that's what stops you from making a mistake or forgetting an unconsidered or unforeseen consequence that comes out of this, because you've just overlooked something. Okay, so with communication plans, again, another little table appearing. So you've got the groups again, and then you've got the which is your who, then you've got what, what's going to change, what do you need to say to them, how are you going to communicate? Is it via meeting, email, going to get them on a webinar and present? So think about all of those things, and then importantly as well, when is the right time to communicate with each group? And often there's going to be multiple times that you're going to need to communicate throughout your digital transformation project. Next slide, please. So to kind of draw a line under this section, a few more things. So human resource requirements. How is this going to affect current staff and their duties? And do they have the capabilities and skills right now to handle the technology? Okay. If they don't, you're going to again need to start to imagine and think about what it is that they are going to need to know, what skills they're going to need in order to be ready to use this technology. In some cases, it's going to be upskilling and training people. In other cases, you may decide to hire people, whether that's permanent staff, freelancers, part-timers. Are you going to outsource certain things? All things that you're going to need to consider and think about. If you're going to be hiring people, what hiring approach are you going to take? Obviously, you want the best possible people with the best possible skills. You need a strategy for that. How are you going to approach finding people? What kind of platforms are you going to use, or are you going to use agencies? So something else for you to think about. And then we've got costs, of course. So you're going to, again, need to think through everything from equipment, software, consultancy fees, the actual tech, the machinery, and also hardware-related things like servers, networks, things like internet security-related items as well. So if you're going to be collecting a lot more data, how are you going to make sure that that's going to be secure and not get hacked, for example? Okay, are you going to buy some additional software that is going to make what you're doing more secure, or does that need to be built by somebody to kind of integrate in with what you're doing? So all things that need to be considered. Next slide, please, Erin. So change management, and this is probably one of the most important things. I know your company's all going to be different sizes, but you're going to need to have a person or people who are accountable for the success of this whole piece. Okay, so that could be a team of people, like a decision-making team that meet regularly to talk about this stuff. It could be certain individuals that you are assigning a particular responsibility. So have a think about that, but you need that accountability. You can't have situations where people haven't thought about things, or it's not clear who's doing what. That's kind of a recipe for disaster. Okay, so clear roles and responsibilities for each part of your digital transformation. Those people need to know what it is they need to do, and also things like reporting. So how do you want people to report back to you to let you know how it's going with each part of whatever it is that you've assigned them to do? So generally, you have a project manager in a larger company, or project managers who will take the overall responsibility for this stuff. So they're going to be looking at who's involved, making sure everybody's doing what they are meant to be doing. They're going to be creating project plans and telling everybody what they need to do and when they need to do it, and all of this sort of thing. And also thinking about things like issues and risks, and trying to make sure that you don't have any nasty surprises sort of coming out of the woodwork later on in the process. So you may want to assign a project manager within your company, and I'll talk a bit about project managers just a little bit more later. Or again, do you need to hire somebody in who's got some expertise in this area to help you, whether that's full-time, temp, or whatever it is. Another thing that a lot of companies use are things like ambassadors or brand champions. So if you've got people who are particularly good with technology, or they're super enthusiastic, or even just somebody that everybody loves, okay, in your company and will listen to, giving them a role to kind of be your eyes and ears, to speak to people about what's happening, to be the one who's going to help people out if they've got any questions as you start to transition to the new technology, making sure people are using it the right way. Okay, all of these things are important, because again, no point in buying the tech and people are not using it properly or don't know how to use it. That's waste of time and waste of money for everybody. So I'll talk a little bit more about this in the project management section, but thinking about what could go wrong is very important. It's not negative, it's about preempting things. So the more you think about, well, what if that happens? Oh God, that would be a nightmare. Right, well, if you're worried about that happening, what steps can you make to ensure that that thing doesn't happen? Okay, and you're going to put those actions into place. If you have a particular way that you think things are going to be done, well, what if we can't do things quite that way? Maybe think about a few acceptable approaches to getting this digital transformation off the ground, because sometimes it turns out that we can't just do things according to our plan A. We need to be flexible and look at other ways of doing things as well. Next slide, please. Metrics and monitoring, another key important point. So how are you going to know you've succeeded? So often we'll do that with what we call metrics or key performance indicators, KPIs. So you don't want to flood your business with KPIs, because they can be super hard to track all of them and to watch them all. But maybe, I don't know, 2 to 5 maximum KPIs that will show, yes, this is working, we're getting the results, okay? And then if you're not getting the KPIs that you expect, then you can start to investigate those and look at what is not going quite right and what you can do to improve. How are you going to capture this data? Could be data related, or percentages, numbers, etc. It could be qualitative, which could be, for example, speaking to customers or speaking to employees and, finding out anecdotally, like, how are they finding things. So don't be afraid to kind of mix it up and have different types of ways to collect the data as well. And then we've got business as usual. And that just means when the software is implemented, when the digital transformation is complete, what is life going to be like after that? Okay, so don't forget that element as well. You've got to keep the tech running. What money is that going to take? How are you going to maintain it, monitor it, make sure it is producing the returns that you expect? Okay, is it going to need to be upgraded at some point? How are you going to look after the health of any tech that you've implemented? So don't forget that stuff as well, because that's all going to then feed into your costs. So congratulations, you've now created your digital transformation strategy. You're just going to write your conclusions, ask for input and feedback from any readers, okay, and talk about, okay, this is what we intend to do. So the next steps for us, how we intend to move forward, is in the next, weeks or months, these are the things that I think is going to happen next. And then you just want some appendices. So these can be very useful jumping off points. It could be links to the DTFF website for people to look at the application process if you think that's relevant. It might be information about digital transformations. It could be links to different suppliers that you're considering. Keep all that information in one place so that you can share this document really easily with anyone who needs to see it. So that's that in a nutshell. And this sort of stuff can take days of training to cover. So we're doing well to cover this in an hour. But that is, if you do all this stuff and you think about the ins and outs of all this stuff, you will have a very, very solid plan, and you'll be very clear in your own mind about what needs to happen. Could we go to the next slide, please, Erin? So very quickly on project managers then. Now, as I mentioned, you might want to hire people in temporarily or permanently, or you might want to kind of get somebody almost sort of trained up and ready to take on this role, okay? If you want to train people, you can send people on decent, so anything from 1 to 5 day courses on project management, where they could either just get the training, or you could even get them qualified in a 3 or 4 to 5 day course as well. So there are various types of recommended and respected project management training course out there. You've got PMP, you've got the Scrum Master, which is an agile way of managing projects. You've got Prince 2, which again is very well respected and recognised, and a more traditional way or formal way of project managing as well. So a project manager, their key duties are that this digital transformation is delivered on time. It's delivered within the budget. It delivers the objectives that you set out at the beginning, and that could include any KPIs, that you've set out to measure. And it's got to be done smoothly, not chaotically, right? Which is what all this thinking that we've been talking about is going to help. And it's got to be quite done to a decent standard as well. So no point in doing this and everything's hanging off the hinge, the hinges, so to speak. It's done well. It's a good project, and it's been implemented, in a sound way. They're going to have to think about all of the tasks that are involved from A to Z, with different teams, with different people, with different departments, in a logical order, okay? And they're going to need to manage resources, whether that's people, the financial side of things, and machinery, equipment, and all that kind of thing as well. They should be open to receiving feedback from people. This is not a sort of situation where the project manager is all knowing, okay? Other people should be feeding in, saying, well, can we approach it this way because of this, that, or the other? Or letting people know, because the project manager can't know and understand every element of someone's job, for example. So they do need that feedback. So make sure that this is a two-way process and there is flexibility for people to input into this. Otherwise, you're going to miss something important. So they're going to be coordinating with everybody. Communication, very important as well. Informing people of what is expected, reporting to you or whoever your leadership team is for this project. And also, as we talked about, risks as well. So thinking about what could go wrong, okay, with anything here, basically, and thinking about how you could minimise those risks. Next slide, please, Erin. So I very quickly just want to talk to you about a few tech and tools that could be useful to help you as you are thinking about your digital transformation plan, thinking about the project management element. So there are two tools here, also a few tools here. So this is the screenshots here are from a tool called clickup.com. So you can get a free version of this. It's what we call a freemium product. It's got a free low-cost version that you can sign up for, and then if you want any more advanced functionality, then you can pay for that. Now, ClickUp has this goals option, so you can talk about any particular business goals that you've got, and then it can help you to kind of track and work towards those. You can see here, hopefully, it's a little bit small, that this is a project view where we can see different people in the team, and we can see for the tasks that have been assigned to them what the level of completion is there. And if we drill into one of those people, for example, we're drilling into Aaron's work here, we can see what's been assigned to them, and we can see how far through each assigned task they are. So this is great for project management, for delegating, for people to kind of see where they are, see where their team members and colleagues are as well. And some other really useful tools for project management, in addition to this one, which is ClickUp, is Asana, Trello.com, Airtable, Process Street, and Monday.com. So these are, decent quality tools I would recommend. Next slide, please, Erin. Just a few other examples here. So on the left here, we've got a few screenshots from asana.com. So one is a Gantt chart view where we can see all of the items that are needed for the digital transformation project, and we can see the timeline as to when we expect each of these items to be completed by. Then we've got a more detailed view in this screenshot below, where we can see the members of the team, the priority of the tasks, and whether they've completed them or not. On the right-hand side here, we've got Trello, which is a hugely popular task and project management tool. Very, very simple. You just have this concept of these columns that kind of contain similar types of task. And the idea is that we're generally moving things from one status to the next, usually moving them from left to right. So in this example, we've got a very, very simple task management system. So we've got all of the things that we need to do, all of the things that are in progress. In this particular case, we've got a checkpoint where someone in a managerial position is kind of checking and signing off that, yeah, the things that people have been doing, they have been done to the right standard, and then we've got a done column. So this can be done to manage one person's workload, or we can also have a whole team, and basically we will just assign tasks in a queue to a particular individual. When the person drags the task into the doing or in progress, we have a real-time view then of everything that's in progress within, for that team or department or part of the project. And then when things are done, we'll see that they've been moved to the done column. And this inset here is just what it looks like when you click into one of these white cards. So you can attach attachments, you can add links, you can add a checklist view where you can kind of put tasks step by step. You can assign tasks to different people, and you can also assign calendar due dates, and the card will change colour. A little kind of timer icon will appear, and they'll change colour depending on how close they are to the due date. Next slide, please, Erin. So why do projects fail then? There have been numerous reports, articles, blog posts, Harvard Business Review. You'll find a million articles about why do projects fail. The last I heard, there was one report that had I think over 100 reasons why a digital project could fail. But the main ones are gaps in thinking, wrong assumptions, inadequate planning, whatever it is, whether it's finance or just kind of general planning, not thinking about people, okay, and the fact that they can scupper your project if they're dragging their feet or they're not fully on board. We're all about sort of passive aggressive behaviour and all that sort of thing. People not quite doing what they want to, what they should be doing because they're making sort of a silent protest, okay? So you've got to get people's hearts and minds into this. Inadequate focus or attention. So again, I think we've kind of mitigated that risk here because we've talked about all of the thinking that needs to go into this. If you put that thinking into it, you won't be falling foul of that. Lack of proper project management. So again, we've just I've given you a brief overview of some of the things to think about, what needs to be done. But again, that of course will be in your hands about how you actually manage the project management, how formalised you make it, whether you're going to train somebody up or what you're going to do around that. Picking the wrong priorities, the wrong tech or the wrong partners. Again, if you go through this digital transformation plan that I've just run through with you, there's less chance of you making any mistakes and errors there. Now, I would suggest that you use some sorts of trial or prototype or pilot testing, because that way, if you have an idea about how you want things to work and you run some kind of pilot or test, you may even do a pilot with a couple of approaches, A and B, right? It can be worth doing that just so that you don't go a few months into this and say, oh, this was totally the wrong thing. If you have some kind of pilot test or way to test this early, there's much less chance of you making any serious and severe mistakes. Next slide, please. So another thing that I would suggest for you, being smaller businesses, is to be agile, okay? And agile is a set of principles around how you build, like a digital project, so to speak. So it started out with a group of experienced developers that came up with this agile approach to software development. And it's become so popular that even outside of tech, people are using agile approaches within their businesses, within their teams, etc. So agile projects don't try to do everything in one go, okay? They break things into small chunks and they try to ensure that there is value in every small element that they deliver. So we don't wait forever and ever and ever and a day to get the benefit. We split a project up so that we get small income elements of benefit all the time throughout the project until it comes to a close, all right? So that means that we have kind of shortish phases for each project, but each one is simplified as much as possible, because when we complicate a project, it's more likely to fail. So we simplify, do the simplest thing that's going to give us some value and benefit, and we try to get that delivered as quickly as possible, and then we keep going with that approach. So I talked about this ruthless prioritisation earlier. So some of the fundamental questions for you are we going to do that or not do it? Okay, when you're thinking about all your digital transformation and all the things that you're going to have to consider. Or are we going to do that now, or can we postpone that element until later? So again, I've got a few very simple but powerful systems to help you make decisions. So one is called Moscow prioritization. So Moscow stands for must, should, could, and would like to, but we won't. Okay. So this is where, from your digital transformation strategy plan, you're going to think about all of the things that you want to do. Okay. And sometimes it's just not realistic. As I say, I've worked on multi-million-pound digital projects and we still couldn't do everything that everybody wanted to do, even with millions. Okay. So prioritization is the key. So you might have a list. You can even use an Excel spreadsheet because it's easy to drag and drop cells. So you just have a long list of all the things you need to do, and you're just going to drag them into, right, I think we absolutely must do that. Without that thing, the project is not going to have any value. It's a must. That thing, it'd be nice to have that. I prefer to have it, but I'll consider that a should. Okay, and then you have the could. We could do it. We could, but it's not a must, and it's not something that's absolutely critical. So we'll just put it in the could, and then the won'ts are the things that you kind of let go of, at least for now. Okay, so that will help you to work out what's really important, so that eventually then you're just going to have a column of musts, and they're going to be the things that you're definitely going to do. Okay, this is subject to change. You can move things around. It's not set in stone forever, but it helps you to clearly start to make some important decisions about what you're going to do, what you're not. High, medium, and low. You also want to think about the priorities there as well. So how, so it's just basically, is it high priority, medium, or low? So that's a very simple three groups that you put things in. Another good one is value versus cost. If something's high value and low cost, that's a winner. Okay. So how you would do that is you just assign 3 points for value: high value, medium or low value, and cost. How expensive is it in terms of time or money? Again, you give it a number. So then you say something's high value, it's a 3. And if it's a low cost, it's a 3, okay, because we prefer low cost things. So you add those two numbers together and that gives you a score. So if you apply that to everything that you want to do, you'll be able to see which things are probably most worth your effort. Because if you've got something that's low value and high cost, why would you want to do it? Is it really worth you doing that? Next slide, please. So just to round off then about Agile then. So try to work in, kind of implement or execute your digital transformation strategy in small, manageable chunks with focus on value, and also that you're going to be continuing to improve this over time. So I won't spend too much time on this because I know we're coming up to time. We started a little bit later, unfortunately, today because we had some tech issues. So this top option, this is an incremental approach, okay? So we want to build a car, right? That's the end goal. That's the benefit we want. And we're going to, first of all, start working on the doors, then the seats, the chassis, and then we won't have anything really useful until we get the whole car, okay? So in Agile, we don't try to look at projects that way because we have to wait right to the end to get the value. We prefer this iterative approach, okay, where we have a simple first phase where we try to get some value out, and then we move to the next chunk of work and try and get some more value. So we say, right, okay, well, we started off walking, right, not great, but now we've got a skateboard, okay, so we've done a bit of a project, and now we can go quicker than walking. It's not as quick as a car, but we can move quicker. Then the next part of the project, we're going to add some more value, and we're going to be able to go a bit faster still. So we're still not going to be able to go as fast as a car, but we're now faster than a skateboard, and we're quicker than when we were walking before, okay? So the thing there is to think smart thinking about how you can break down the tasks that you need to keep delivering little bits of value so that you're not waiting for a very long time in your project to get the benefits. And as I was saying before, keep thinking about these pilots and prototypes and getting feedback and starting to get things out in the world so you can see how they really work in reality. Next slide, please, Erin. So I'll skip through some very quickly. This is just an example from Trello.com that I showed you earlier, and this is just another way of categorising, doing the Moscow categorisation as I was showing you before, which is the must, should, could and won't. Next slide, please, Erin. So thank you for your attention. Before I hand back to Erin just to close off for the day. So please reflect on the things that I've said, the guidance that I've provided. As I say, I promise you, if you spend the time thinking about the things we've talked about, you will be in a very good position. And do think through your plan. Look for those aha moments, because they're going to make for a stronger application, and do try to get some honest feedback. So you're going to pick the best elements from your plan that we talked about, and then you can pick those elements up and put them towards your 800 words for the different sections of your digital transformation plan. So good luck with that, and here's my LinkedIn if anyone would like to connect with me.
Thank you so much, Kay. That was fantastic. Lots of good points to really consider, especially for the participants who may be thinking about their expressions of interest, which you don't necessarily need your digital transformation plan completed to complete your expression of interest, but having that overall strategy plan could really help you better sort of enunciate and clarify what you'd like to do with the DTFF if you apply. So thank you so much. Just to go through a few things here, before I sort of talked to you a little bit about further support, I wanted to ask if anybody had any questions. There was one that came through, Kay, while you were speaking, and they were just asking about getting all the documents. Now, I'm not too sure exactly what they mean by that, if they're talking about some of the documents of the examples that you showed of some of those different resources. If you're speaking about the digital transformation flexible fund documents, I'll point out where you can get those in just a moment. So just let me know. I do have a question as well, though, that came through. So in order to bring the business along the digital transformation journey, what particular strategies can one employ to win hearts and minds of people within the business who might be resistant to change? Kay, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question. So this would go back to what I was saying about the stakeholder planning. So looking at different groups or departments or any, all the things that we name. So in this case, thinking about, is it particular individuals or is it particular departments that have got entrenched in their way of working? And just sort of consider what kind of issues you're having or expecting to have with people. Is it that what's underlying that? Are they afraid of change? Are they afraid how it's going to affect their job? Do they think that this is going to make their life harder and more difficult in some way? Do they think that this is going to be too challenging for them to get their head around? There's often some underlying kind of fears that people have, and usually with a stakeholder plan and comms plan, you're just going to be brainstorming and thinking, right, okay, well, what could we do? If people are afraid of this is going to be too complicated, then it will be, well, don't worry, we're going to have ambassadors within the business that are going to go around and make sure everyone's okay. It could be that you're going to produce some videos or some sort of online help guides for people. It could be we're going to send you on training. So trying to think about how you can put a line and say, right, okay, we've addressed that concern, right? And you're just going to communicate those things in a positive, upbeat way so that that will instantly start to make them feel less concerned and less fearful.
Okay, very good. Thank you. There's a question that's also come in about the quotes. So you mentioned obtaining two quotes. What if you wish to purchase a new software platform that is unique? So a second quote is not possible. Angela, what I would say, as far as I know, the two quotes is a requirement. I understand what you're saying about it maybe being unique and that it's maybe only offered by one particular business. I think what I would recommend you doing is reaching out to your local council. Each council has sort of representatives that are directly connected to the DTFF, and they might be able to sort of answer that a little more clearly if you can sort of show that actually no, it is not possible to get the second quote. What would I do from here? Um, I hope that's helpful. I'm sorry, I can't be more definitive, but I think it'd
I
be
would
up to the councils.
I would have also said, Erin, there that there are lots of software agencies and consultancies that do bespoke software development. So if you're saying that there's one organisation that have this, how much would it cost potentially to get to build this as an alternative? So that may be something you could consider. So you've got kind of a build versus buy, for example. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that could be something else you could look at.
That's a good point. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions you'd like to put in the chat? Please feel free. That's why we're here. Maybe what I'll do, just in case people are thinking about questions or still typing in questions, maybe I'll go ahead and I will just discuss a little bit some of that further help and support that is on offer for all of you who are considering to applying for the DTFF. So you have lots and lots of available resources to you. I just must reiterate that unfortunately, the operations team from the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund are not able to help you directly with your transformation plan application, but you have lots of free resources besides this team. And as somebody mentioned in the chat as well, all of these things are usually free. So please feel free to reach out to whatever, one of these you feel would best suit you. But there's a lot of different education colleges across Northern Ireland that specialize or have specific insight into these new emerging technologies. Queen's University as well. We have a massive amount of support. Specifically, the Clinton Leadership Institute has, created specific webinars and other data and digital transformation series in order to help applicants with this application and obtaining the fund. I'll tell you a bit more about those in a minute. But there's also the University of Ulster. They have a smart manufacturing data hub, which is fantastic. Also your local authorities as well. Innovate NI is a great one. There's enterprise support service as well. So again, reaching out to some of the local authorities or the councils as well. But if you feel as well that you have identified a support system or mechanism that could really benefit you or is directly applicable to you and your business and your application, feel free to utilize them as well. There's not a limit on that. But again, if you want any details on the flexible fund itself, the DTFF website is fantastic. It has everything you need around the application process. There is an application guidance as well, which is like the holy grail for anybody who's applying for this fund because it walks you through step by step exactly how to do things in very good detail. What I will mention though as well, so when you go to the website, if you just go to apply now, you'll see that applicant guidance there. There's also an FAQ section and the further support. So lots of resources on the website. And also, as I mentioned, our university specifically has a lot of support around this. And you'll see the QR code there. At Queen's, we offer business clinics, which are fantastic resources for businesses who maybe need some new perspective, want a fresh take on a problem that they're having. So any businesses can apply of all sizes and shapes. And you're basically paired with a student consultancy team and they brainstorm and they try to help you solve this issue or come up with different perspectives on how to approach it. We've had a lot of successful examples of how businesses have gained lots of insight from students who are, sort of freshly learning about the recent and up-to-date things that are occurring in the field. We're also currently running a mentoring program. We've got some fantastic business partners as well. Basically, businesses are partnered with our master's business analytics students. As Kay mentioned, and as if you've attended any of the pre-briefing sessions, data, big data, analytics, it's just everywhere. It's just how do you utilize that data? How do you leverage it to really help you make smart decisions, be strategic, and things like that? So the mentoring program is kind of a reverse mentoring scheme where the business participant offers their insights and expertise into a specific sector, into, in and around employability and things like that. And in turn, the student is offering really their subject knowledge around data and analytics, things like predictive analysis and things like that. So it's a fantastic partnership where the currency is really exchange of information. Again, that's actually coming to an end in the next month or so, but we will be having that opportunity next year. So if anyone feels like that's interesting to them, keep a lookout for next year's application to join that. If you'd rather sort of discuss things and talk to academics, we also have something called Meeting of the Minds. And that's really where businesses and academic experts sort of come together and talk about current issues or current findings and things like that to address perhaps current or future skill gaps in employability and just things around, what does a business need and maybe what could that then turn into as far as curriculum, or the academic can also be informing businesses as well about what is up, current and sort of up and coming, things that are happening in the field. So it's quite a nice sort of relationship as well. But the Clinton Leadership Institute also runs a number of custom courses, executive programs, all around digital transformation. You can see some of them there across the bottom of the screen, around business analytics essentials, around data analytics, and how you really use that to make great decisions to hopefully, increase efficiency or productivity, reduce costs, and things like that. So there's a lot on all of this digital stuff, which could really be of use to you as you consider your expression of interest or you write your application. So please do check out the website for any further information on that support. As I mentioned at the start, we did run a series of webinars, and they were specifically around some of those 6 emerging technologies, which you would need to focus on in your digital transformation plan and when applying for the DTFF. So if you missed one or you didn't catch one, or you're thinking, I think I'm really going to focus on blockchain, or I really need to look at robotics, and that's going to be the emerging technology that I use to create my digital transformation plan, you can specifically go and look for that webinar around that emerging technology and just learn a little bit more about it, which again could hopefully help you better clarify and write your expression of interest and or your application and your plan. So those are all on our YouTube channel as well. So check those out if you have missed anything, or if you want to go through anything that we've talked about today, just again to kind of refresh it in your mind. This will also be put on the YouTube channel as well. So that's really it from today. But what I'll do is I'll just open it up again to any more questions. If anybody has any further questions at all, please do put it in the chat or let us know so we can help you. And one other thing I guess I will say, just after participating in the first call, and we are now on call 3 for the Digital Transformation Flexible Fund. One thing that's come up a lot with the digital transformation plan is that those 3 criteria that Kay was mentioning, those are what are assessed and what is scored. That is what's used to determine whether you get a letter of offer. So it's just being very careful about reading each criteria and making sure that you answer the question that is asked in that criteria. In some cases, for example, someone's answered question 2, but they put it in question 1. And the people who are scoring your applications can only score what you include in that criteria box. So if it's mismatched in any way, you won't get the score that you need. So please do just think carefully about what you're putting in each criteria box and make sure that it really clearly demonstrates how you answer that question. That would be one piece of advice that I would give everybody just after going through this and being a part of it. So that's maybe my best advice for everybody. But we just want to say good luck to everybody who is considering applying. And again, we'll be here for, we'll maybe say, 5 more minutes or so in case anybody has questions. Kay, do you want to add anything at all? Or are you okay?
No, nothing else to add, but yes, happy to see if anyone's got any more questions.
Very good. Yeah, we'll just be here for a couple of minutes. If you don't have questions or if you need to pop off the call, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We do hope it's been helpful for you in thinking about your overall strategy as well as crafting that digital transformation plan for the application. And then again, just know you can check out all the resources, rewatch any webinars that we've already done or today's webinar on the YouTube channel. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us.